It's still loading. Okay. Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Dallas Meditation Center. My name's Nick. I'll be facilitating today. Um, so first, I would like to invite everyone to check in and say something in the text box, uh, perhaps something you're grateful for or a quality that you're welcoming into your life on this spring day. Um, so as you all are typing, I'm going to read the opening affirmation today. Noble community, we gather here now to honor the way of peace and nonviolence, the way of wisdom and compassion, the way of joy and beauty, in solidarity with one another, with all humanity, and with all life on earth. Friends on the path, we gather here now to deepen our solidity like a mountain and to renew our freshness like a flower.
Through mindful sitting and walking,
Mindful singing and breathing, and mindful speaking and listening. Sisters and brothers of awakening, we gather here now to celebrate the one infinite light that shines through many religions, many cultures, many teachers, to practice the teachings of our ancestral teachers, including Siddhartha Gautama, the Shakyamuni Buddha, and of our contemporary teachers, including Thich Nhat Hanh.
and to affirm our faith and the capacity within ourselves and all persons,
both men and women of every race, orientation, and class, to realize full and complete enlightenment. Okay, so for the check-in, yes, I'd like to start. I'm feeling grateful for this beautiful day. I'm welcoming in compassion and some presence. I see that Carrie checked in and said namaste to all of us, which means the light in me recognizes the light in you. Jian checked in and said good to be with you all. Heather says hi everyone. She's grateful for her long weekend. Miles says hello from Wichita Falls. She's welcoming a sense of adventure. So, and let's see. Barbara says grateful for the end of the academic year. It's definitely something to be grateful for. The summer has begun, I suppose. So it's nice to reflect and hear from everyone what they're grateful for. Let's see. Stephanie also says, hello, I'm grateful to be here and grateful for the beautiful weather today. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for checking in. Now we're going to turn it over to Bobby for a song.
Hello, everyone. So happy that you could join us this evening. I thought we would do the Medicine Buddha chant that's sort of becoming our go-to on Sunday evening, keeping in mind all the people who are suffering, the people that are actually doing well, wishing them to continue to be well. And so we'll do the Medicine Buddha chant for all of us, for all beings everywhere. Before we do that, I want to say one thing. In a little bit, I'm going to offer a guided meditation. And one of the things that I will talk about is how to let your mind be open and spacious like the sky. And so if you have not looked out your window today or been outside, take a look and notice how open and wide and spacious the sky is today. That I think might help you when we get to that part of the meditation. It'll be easier to imagine your mind open and spacious. So, Medicine Buddha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vaishesha Guru Vaidurya Pravarajaya Tathagataya Arhate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tadyata Om Vaisheshe Vaisheshe Maha Vaisheshe Raja Samugate Swaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vaishesha Guru Vaidurya Pravarajaya Tathagataya Arhate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tadyata Om Vaisheshe Vaisheshe Maha Vaisheshe Raja Samukate Swaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vaishesha Guru Vaidurya Pravarajaya Tathagataya Arhate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tadyata Om Vaisheshe Vaisheshe Maha Vaisheshe Raja Samugate Swaha. Thank you. I'm going to pass you back to Nick.
Okay. So, are we doing the meditation now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm going to pass you back to the altar. That's right. Yes, for the guided meditation.
So I invite you to settle into your meditation posture, wherever that might be, in a chair, on the floor, lying down. And whatever posture, whatever position you're taking, you want to remember to keep your back straight, not stiff or rigid, but we want to be able to breathe easily. I'll invite 3 sounds of the bell, just to get us all in the same energy field. In this meditation, I will offer a couple of sentences of guidance and then a word to think as you're breathing in and a word to think as you're breathing out. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. In, out. In, out. Breathing in, I feel my chest rising. Breathing out, I feel my chest falling, rising, falling, rising, falling. Breathing in, I feel my breath deepen. Breathing out, I feel my breath slow, deep, slow, deep, slow. Breathing in, I am aware of my whole body. Breathing out, I relax my whole body. Body, relaxing. Body, relaxing. Breathing in, I calm every cell in my body. Breathing out, I smile. Calm, smile. Calm, smile. Breathing in, I experience ease in my body. Breathing out, I smile. Ease, smile. Ease, smile. Breathing in, I see my mind like a spacious blue sky. Breathing out, I smile. Spacious mind, smile. Spacious mind, smile. in, I am aware of a pleasant thought. Breathing out, I smile to the pleasant thought. Pleasant thought, smile. Pleasant thought, smile. Breathing in, I am aware of an unpleasant thought. Breathing out, I smile to the unpleasant thought. Unpleasant thought, smile. Unpleasant thought, smile. Breathing in, I am aware of a neutral thought. Breathing out, I smile to the neutral thought. Neutral thought, smile. Neutral thought, smile. Breathing in, I see thoughts float away like clouds in a spacious blue sky. Breathing out, I smile to the thought clouds. Thought clouds, smile. Thought clouds, smile. Breathing in, I'm aware that my breath, body, and mind are happy in the present moment. Breathing out, I rest in the present moment. Present moment, rest. Present moment, rest. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free.
May all beings be free.
May all beings be joyful.
May all beings be joyful. Vihara Maitri.
Brahma Vihara Karuna.
Brahma Vihara Karuna.
Brahma Vihara Mudita.
Brahma Vihara Mudita.
Brahma Vihara Upeksha.
Brahma Vihara Upeksha.
May all beings be happy.
May all beings be happy.
May all beings be free.
May all beings be free.
May all beings be joyful.
May all beings be joyful.
May all beings be at peace.
May all beings be at peace.
May all beings be at peace.
May all beings be at peace. Okay. Now we will proceed to our refuge chant, chanting the three jewels that we take refuge in: the Dharma, the Buddha, and the Sangha. So, Om Namo Abhitaba Buddhaya Amitabha Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. We take refuge in the awakening heart of infinite light, that which shows us the way in this life. Om Namo Abhitaba Dharmaya Amitabha Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami. We take refuge in the awakening path of infinite light, the way of understanding and of love. Om Namo Amitabha Sangaya Amitabha Sangam Sharanam Gacchami. We take refuge in the awakening community of infinite light, those who live in harmony and awareness. And now we've got a Dharma talk prepared for you by Jessica Thich, fellow Sangha member. So enjoy what she has to say.
Well, hi everybody. I miss being able to literally see you all when we meet, but I'm glad we can still connect in this way. And tonight, I am going to bring us back to basics, because I know at this time, it seems like a lot of things have just gotten scrambled. And it feels like my life before I had to stop and slow down had a lot of things that may have been unnecessary. This whole situation has brought me back to, where do I get my food? Where do I get the water I want to drink? Do I have shelter? Who do I love? How do I care for myself? And so these are really basic, simple things that weren't necessarily top of mind before we entered this time. And so I know that the practices the Buddha taught are so valuable in helping us to be present and to create joy in our lives. I wanted to go back to the basics of Buddhism tonight. And so I'm going to do that with numbers. So number one is that there's one moment right here and right now. And as much as our monkey mind may try to take us back into the past or forward into the future, our breath is the anchor that brings us back to the present moment. That's one reason we ring the bell and breathe so much, is to remind ourselves that here and now is the only place that ever is and ever will be. And I know in my practice, I practice mindful walking throughout the day. And so that means with every step, I'm aware of the step. You know, as I breathe in, I know I'm breathing in, whether standing, sitting, or lying down. And so doing that practice every single day, sometimes I notice it's more difficult than others. I may feel distracted, confused, I may have very strong emotions. And breathing in, I can become aware of how I'm feeling and how I'm thinking. And most often, sorrows from the past may haunt me, anxieties about the future may haunt me, but when I return to the present moment, I see everything is going well. I've heard if your heart's beating and you're breathing, more things are working in your favor than are working against you at that point. And so I know at the monastery, Thich Nhat's monasteries, they taught a practice to create suffering is to practice gratitude. And I found it really helps. Sometimes I need more gratitude than others to get rid of the suffering, but usually starts with stuff like I'm dry, I'm safe, I have food. And then after being grateful for a handful of things, suddenly, what was I worried about or stressed about? Oh well. And now in Buddhism, there are two truths. There's the absolute truth, and then there's the relative truth. I like to think the absolute truth is the one that would exist if every single spiritual teaching on the planet were destroyed, because it's true truth and it exists throughout space and time, in our hearts, but even beyond what I could describe by saying in our hearts. It's a truth that emanates forth, that people have found throughout millennia. But the thing is, the relative truth sometimes is our interpretation of it. We're limited in what we can sense. Even the words I'm using limit true expression. And so there's that story about all the different religions talking about truth, and it's this giant elephant. And maybe Hinduism is looking at its tail, so to them it looks this way. Maybe Buddhism's at an ear. Christianity could be looking at the elephant's face. There could be pagan spiritualities that are looking at the belly underneath. There could be forgotten or unknown perceptions, spiritual practices, looking at even different parts of the elephant. And they're all explaining the exactly same thing, but from different vantage points. And so the absolute truth is there. The relative truth may change based on our perception. Like each of us in this room have a different relative truth because we're literally looking at a totally different thing. Everyone there at home has a totally different relative truth right now, but we're still unified with the absolute truth, which we can find when we meditate. So in Buddhism, there are actually three threes. The first one I'll talk about are the three jewels, which tonight we invited in through some of the mantras and some of the affirmations. And so the Buddha is the one who shows us the way to enlightenment. And there's the ancestral Buddha who lived 2,600 years ago. And then there's the Buddha field, the Buddha nature that exists within each and every one of us. Some people may like to think of it as their inner wisdom that guides them. Now then there's Dharma. Dharma, I've heard explained, is the antidote to the poisons that create suffering. Dharma are the Buddha's teachings that help us realize joy and enlightenment and compassion in this life. And then Sangha is our spiritual community. And it's always exciting when we can come together physically, but I also know the Sangha exists in non-physical realms. In fact, I'm wearing this shirt today, Wake Up, and that's Thich Nhat Hanh's youth Sangha, young adult Sangha around the world. And Thich Nhat Hanh has monasteries and practitioners and groups all around the world. So this community that wants to cultivate peace and nonviolence and awareness exists all throughout the world. And that's just one section of all sorts of other people who are seeking the same thing. And this community that's seeking awareness is part of the Sangha. Now, there are 3 Vajras that we work with, which are body, speech, and mind. And so body creates action in the world. Before we have an action, a lot of times we have a thought in the mind, and we may use our words or speech to also communicate to others. And in Buddhism, they talk about skillful and unskillful. And so I like to think about what would a skillful action look like versus an unskillful one? How could I apply skillfulness to my words and also my way of thinking? I know one of the practices that served me well is when I'm angry, I'm determined not to speak. I vow to look deeply into the roots of my anger and understand that my lack of understanding and my lack of understanding of the other are creating the suffering. Now, how that looks practically, somebody says something really mean to me. I notice I'm really mad. I can think of all sorts of snappy comebacks to tell them like what I really think. But I breathe in, noticing I'm enraged. Then I wait, maybe till the next day. I notice I'm still perturbed. Then I meditate 15, 20 minutes, just like normal. And then by the time I'm calmed down, then I deal with the situation and I'm able to come from a much more friendly place than I would have if I'd responded immediately. So there are also 3 poisons. The first one is aversion. So like when that person was mean to me, I was averse to that situation. I did not want to experience that. I did not want to deal with it. And so in my present moment, I was then suffering. So these 3 poisons cause suffering. The next one is attachment. Attachment could be thinking, I love my body in this way. Like, I love it so much, but inevitably it's going to change and transform throughout our lives in ways we may or may not be able to change. So if we're attached to it being in a certain state to be happy, then we're going to suffer because that's out of our control. So anytime we want things to be a certain way and then find unhappiness in the moment, we're suffering due to attachment. And we can be attached to ideas and beliefs and ways of being too that might cause suffering. Now, the last poison is ignorance. And this is just, I don't know everything. We don't know everything. Our minds sometimes really think that they do. Like I was teaching art this week and my student drew a very, very abstract drawing. And when I looked at it, it was a cow. I knew it was a cow. Like my mind was telling me that is a cow. But I also knew there was no way he was actually drawing a cow. That was what I was seeing in it. And I told him, yeah, to me that's a cow. And he had me show him where the face was. And, oh, okay, I could see that too. But no, he didn't draw that as a cow. And so that made me wonder, how often do I think or know something is the specific way, and my brain is telling me that's how it is, that's how you see it, when in reality, that's not the motivation of the person who said or did something else. It was interesting to see how certain my mind was that I was correct. So I think that's an example of ignorance. Now, the Buddha taught 4 noble truths. One is that there is suffering. And that one sounds kind of like a bummer, except it helps you accept the fact that we're human. So when we practice, a lot of people think you come to meditate just so you're mind can be clear. And sometimes it is, and that's really cool. But why we really come to practice is to build the muscle of mindfulness and to develop the observer consciousness that can watch. And the observer consciousness is beyond all the thoughts and the clouds and the weather. And Brother Chi Sing taught, sometimes when you come meditate, it's blissful. It's what everybody associates with meditation, sitting there like, oh, filled with bliss and peace and joy. Sometimes it's terrible, especially when I first started. I know to sit for 15 minutes felt like I was sitting for 10 hours, and like to watch my mind was so uncomfortable. Sometimes the body's uncomfortable. Sometimes the emotions you observe are uncomfortable. But no matter what your experience is when you're on the cushion, you build the muscle of mindfulness to take out into the world. And that allows you to observe your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. So that then you can breathe in to return to the present moment and transform your suffering. Now, the Buddha taught there is a cause of this suffering. He said birth is suffering, illness is suffering, old age is suffering, and death is suffering. But just because it's there doesn't mean we have to continually suffer. That's the third noble truth. There's an end to suffering. And I know Brother Chi Sing liked to give an example kind of like this. Like one day he stubs his toe on a piece of furniture and it's painful. And the pain is just blaring out of his toe. And then his mind starts to think, oh no, what if it gets infected? What if it's broken? And then it starts to go, oh, they're going to have to amputate my foot. Oh my God, I won't have a leg. Oh my God, I'll never meet a partner. Oh my God, I'll die alone. And before you know it, just the one thing was hitting your toe on some furniture. And the thoughts take you out into like this doom and gloom future. So breathing in, I'm here. Breathing out, I'm home. And in the here and now, the Buddha taught to follow the Eightfold Path to transform the suffering, which I'll get to in a little bit. All right, now 5. There are 5 hindrances to our practice. One is ill will towards others. And I think this is one reason we often practice loving kindness meditation, and we send the love to ourselves, to neutral people, we send it to people who are easy to love, and we also send it to those that we detest or that are difficult to love, because it opens up the boundless heart of compassion within us, and it brings us strength from within. Now, there's also sense desires that can pull us out of the present moment. This is another great example of maybe attachment. I just quit drinking coffee about a week ago, so I understand the attachment to caffeine and how I drive by Starbucks and suddenly that's all I can see everywhere I go are Starbucks, and that's where all my money wants to go to. Quit smoking tobacco, similar situation. Why am I spending this much money? So something I know will make me unhealthy. Oh my God, I've just got to. I'm so attached. And like, we all have different things that attract us and may be attachments in our lives, including even workaholism or working out too much or things that can be okay in moderation. So we can moderate our sense desires. Another hindrance is anxiousness, and another is doubt, a mind of doubt. But then laziness and apathy can also get in the way of our practice. Even waking up and meditating each morning can be challenging sometimes because you have to actually get up, and it's easier to stay in bed. And so there are also 5 remembrances, and these are to help free us from fear. I think right now they're really helpful because if this whole coronavirus thing did nothing else, it just brought up the specter of death, like big and bold, and the realization that it's all impermanent, that everyone we know is going to die one day. We can't avoid it, we can't ignore it, it's right there. But these help us to know that and transform any suffering that comes out of knowing that so that we can live in joy and freedom right here and right now. So the first one is knowing I'm of the nature to grow old. I cannot escape growing old. no matter how much the cosmetic ads tell me I can. It's going to happen. I'm of the nature to have ill health. I can't escape ill health. And I think this one helps because we all experience ill health, and sometimes it feels like, oh no, I'm not perfect. My body's not perfect. I must be doing something wrong. Must be something wrong with me. Well, again, we're human. That's known. We're all going to, at times, experience ill health. Another one we can't avoid. I'm of the nature to die. I cannot escape death. This goes well with everyone I know is of the nature to change. I cannot escape being separated from them. And that's the thing with impermanence. It means things we love and things we hate are both going to transform. And so it's bittersweet to know that on the other side of sorrow is joy, but the joy is also going to go away and something else will come. And so the final remembrance is that my actions are my only true belongings. My actions are the ground on which I stand. And I totally love it if anyone out there has any thoughts on your actions being the ground on which you stand, or just general ones. You could always throw them in the chat. That's one thing I miss if y'all are all here. I'd be like, so what do you think? And then I could hear you. Okay. So 5 mindfulness trainings are based on Buddha's ethics to help us live without suffering, with well-being. And so this state of well-being is what we seek. And so the first mindfulness training is about protecting life and practicing nonviolence. Our teacher, Thich Nhat, lived in Vietnam when the Vietnam War started, and he refused to take sides. He wrote pamphlets about peace. He helped people who had been hurt on either side. And I remember he said at one point he felt so angry seeing villages just destroyed. I mean, one of his fellow monks set himself on fire to show the devastation of what was going on at the time and bring awareness to it. And he said, of course, he was enraged sometimes at the soldiers, but he recognized if he had been raised in the same causes and conditions as they had, that he too would be like they were. And it was only by virtue of the fact that he was born into other causes and conditions that he was the way he was. And so he was able to practice to relieve his suffering, even though justifiably being very angry. So that's why he calls the second mindfulness training generosity and social justice. This is about not stealing and not taking what doesn't belong to you. And so we can look at that in the bigger picture too. Do the world's resources go where they belong? Are humans supported in life? Are there things that we may do that may steal from others their time or their well-being? Even if it's as simple as driving my gas-guzzling car that's then spreading pollution that can spread throughout the world and cause devastation. Am I stealing life from future generations with the choices I make? And these are the kinds of things you can contemplate and probably start to see a lot of connections or see things differently. Now, the third one is responsible sexual behavior. And this is to protect couples, families, and children. So that vital life force is so powerful. And our culture does a terrible job of teaching us how sacred that energy is. And also how we each have our own free will to determine what we want to do with our own life force. So there's just a lot of mixed messages out there, but we could each contemplate what responsible sexual behavior looks like for our unique situation. Then there's one about deep listening and loving speech. And nonviolent communication, they teach every form of communication, even the ones that are upsetting or don't come off well, are attempts to get needs met. And often if you listen deeply, you can hear the underlying need behind somebody, even when they're very angry or maybe hurtful. And I found when you listen to somebody in this way and say, oh, so it sounds like you need some compassion. It sounds like you need some understanding. Like they actually just soften. They're like, yeah, you're right. And then it seems like their worry is kind of gone. And I didn't change anything other than just listening. So that's how listening can help transform suffering. And then mindful consumption is the last one. And this one has been interesting with the coronavirus situation, because I bet most of us have probably reduced the amount we consume, at least because it's been so hard to go shopping. And then thinking, do I need to spend my money on just more clothes or more trinkets? And where are they coming from? And what might life be like for people there? What might their working conditions be? How does what I consume affect my body, my mind? All these things are there in mindful consumption. All right, so number 6, working our way up to 8 here. We've got 6 paramitas. The first one is dana, generosity. We unconditionally and selflessly offer our love, compassion, time, and energy from the depths of our hearts to serve all beings. And so I'd like you all to think right now for a moment, what does unconditionally and selflessly offering your love, compassion, time, and energy right now look like for you? And just trust whatever arises for you. The next one is sila, ethics. And this is like the mindfulness trainings. We're not going to kill, steal, do sexual misconduct, lie, be greedy, gossip, practice divisive or harsh speech, practice malice, wrong views, because all of those will lead us to suffering. So that's the reason not to. Then there's kshanti, patience. We embrace and forbear adversity, insult, distress, and the wrongs of others with patience, tolerance, and free from emotional reactivity, resentment, irritation, or retaliation. So this is one I learned because I have a neighbor who plays really loud bass that shakes my house. And I mean, I love loud music. And so, it's very bad the time it started to bother me. And I'm normally very peaceful. But once those loudspeakers were there shaking my house, all of a sudden I'm thinking, well, how do I get back at him? Do I get loudspeakers that point at him? Do I get a hose and try to hit his speakers and take him out? Do I put a stink bomb near his speakers so he doesn't want to stay out there where it stinks? And I mean, I really had to work to not just react and to find a peaceful solution that also honored my need to have peace in my home, which ultimately ended up with him getting a citation for his music being too loud and turning it down. But I realized there's one part of it which was for me to take the action. And then there was part of it that was me getting worked up and me making these revenge fantasies and me thinking I could make this even bigger. And before you know it, it would escalate. And before you know it, he'd be mad at me. And before you know it, it'd be like what Gandhi says, an eye for an eye makes the whole world go blind. Every house on the street would just have loudspeakers pointing at each other. But yeah, it took a lot of patience for that. And then virya is joyous effort. So this is having courage, energy, and enthusiasm, and using our body, mind, and speech unfailingly and ceaselessly for the benefit of others, without expectation for reward. And of course, in Buddhism, they talk about transforming the suffering of all sentient beings. Bodhisattva is an enlightened being who keeps taking birth on the earth, and they can hear the cries of all sentient beings who are suffering. And so they're going to keep practicing until everyone is free from that suffering. And so that's one reason Chi Sing would point out the Buddha didn't stop meditating when the Buddha attained enlightenment. He kept practicing, and it wasn't just for his personal liberation, because he wanted all sentient beings to be free, And this could be minerals like rocks, this could be plants, it could be animals, it could be humans, this could be things I am not aware of and cannot even sense, but that are still sentient. Then there's concentration. That's where we train and stabilize our mind and emotions. And that's another reason we come to the mat and practice mindfulness, because every time we return our attention to our breath, we're concentrating our awareness right there. When we build up that force field, and there's a painting in the kitchen, and it's a monk like chasing an elephant. And at first, the elephant's taking him away and dragging him, and that's an untrained mind without concentration. Eventually, the monk's able to come up beside the elephant and even ride the elephant and then direct it. When we have concentration, we can direct it and show it where to go instead of just following it and waiting. And then the final one is prajna, wisdom. We experience supreme wisdom beyond all false and distorted views to perceive the essential nature of inner being with clarity, free from dualism or attachment. I think this is what they call the diamond mind that accurately reflects back at all truth. And all I know about this is it's something you experience, not something you're told about. Okay, so moving on up, number 7. These are factors of awakening. And actually today, I listened to a Thich Nhat talk on these 7 factors of awakening. If any of y'all are interested, I suggest you search for it online or any of his talks. They're really good. And also remember, we have Brother Chi Singh's talks on the Dallas Meditation Center website. So if you're ever bored, you can always just go listen to one of his talks. All right. So 7 factors of awakening. We have mindfulness. This brings us balance. This is why we practice mindful walking, mindful breathing, mindful eating, mindful speaking, mindful listening, mindful driving. We can bring mindfulness into everything we do to help us balance in the here and now. Then we've got effort. We keep practicing even when it's not just fun. We keep coming even when we don't feel like it. And that brings us joy that arises in the heart. I've seen so many Buddhist monks talk, and like most of the time they're just in there smiling and it looks like they're giggling and like just have this joy coming out of them. And that's something I really love about teachers in Buddhism. And then there's investigation. That's like what I did when I saw the cow was a function of my mind. It wasn't inherent in what I was observing. Then I was able to investigate how or why I might see that and other possibilities for what was happening. And so all of these take us out of sloth and torpor. Then the other ones, focus, is concentration. Relaxation is like what Bobby so wonderfully guided us into. They say the issues are in the tissues, and a lot of times you'll find in healing work as things in the body are released, emotions come out, thoughts can be connected, all these different things. So as we relax, we're able to transform our suffering by giving ourselves space to heal. Then the last one's equanimity, which is staying balanced, even keeled. Because impermanence, good stuff, bad stuff, even our perception, was that actually good? Was it bad? I don't know. Equanimity says, I have an island in myself that's filled with joy in the here and now. I can always return to it, whether it seems like I'm winning or losing. No matter what, I can have this happiness within by being grateful for this moment here and now. And so that brings us to the grand finale, the Eightfold Path, which the Buddha taught as the way to transform suffering. So there's a lot of rights, and to me, right is skillful. And you might wonder, what does that mean? It doesn't mean, oh, your teacher told you to do it that way, so you better do it that way, or your religion says to do it that way, so you better do it that way. What it means is, if you're skillful, you reduce suffering in yourself and others. And so I know I've done stuff, I didn't necessarily think it was unskillful, but after I did or said something, I realized I was suffering a lot because of the choice I made. And then I was able to say, okay, so that was unskillful. Now I've learned, let me do it differently next time, knowing that I created suffering for myself or for another. So the right view will avoid creating suffering, and it will reduce suffering in yourself and others. Right speech is similar. Right speech generates joy in others. It's truthful. It's clear. The right livelihood heals suffering. It reduces suffering. It doesn't make more suffering. Like stealing from other people is wrong livelihood because it causes a lot of suffering in other people. Right mindfulness is being present here and now. Breathing in, I am here. Breathing out, I arrive. Present moment, beautiful moment. Right concentration must be important because it's appeared in 3 of these. Concentration, that ability to bring all of our awareness right here and right now and be fully present and observe our body, our mind, and our emotions. Then we've got right thought. I think all of us who have practiced for a while have been able to identify almost like thought clusters that may come in. And some of them we may believe or we may have inherited. And we notice if we think those thoughts, we feel unsettled, we don't feel good. And so that's one reason all the positive affirmations can help, because it helps us retrain our thinking to see things differently. Then right action reduces suffering. Sometimes the right action is non-action. The more I stay at home, the less I'm driving my gas guzzling car. So maybe that's actually more of a right action than getting in my car and driving all around, because I think it's helpful. But maybe sometimes driving my car around could really bring, a lot of reduction in suffering. Maybe I'm driving to help care for a loved one who needs my help or something like that. So that's why you can see we can't just say one thing's good or bad, one thing's right or wrong, but on a case-by-case basis, we can assess how that action might change things. And then the last and final one is right effort, which is just to remind us all to be thankful. We took the time out of our day to come and practice, and especially to make the effort to be together. It's so wonderful to see everything that's come into this building where we're sitting, everything that's come into this community to help us stay strong. And so I hope we'll all be able to continue to generate joy for ourselves. And remember, when we feel joyful ourselves, we can share that with the world, which is needed always, not just in times of crisis. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica, for that great talk. It was a great summarization of a lot of different points in Buddhism, some that I have heard before, and it was great to get a reminder of those, and others that I haven't heard before. So it would be nice. I'm also glad that these talks are being recorded through video, so maybe I can go back and watch those in case I forget them, and other people can as well. So thank you. So to close today, we are going to chant. Actually, do we have any announcements before we close?
Yes.
I'll turn it over to Bobby for some announcements.
Yes, announcements. You may remember that this month is the 10th anniversary of the Dallas Meditation Center. So we would love it if you would make a little very short video saying, first of all, your name, and then how long have you been coming to the center? What Sangha do you meet with? And maybe a positive, something positive about being at the meditation center, something somehow that it's impacted your life in a positive way. Just a minute or two. You can actually say quite a lot in a minute or two. So please do that. We want to create a kind of a montage that we can put on our website, offer to people on Facebook, just so everybody knows that the Dallas Meditation Center has been offering wellness, offering mindfulness, offering joy of living to people in this area and actually all over the country for 10 years. So make a little video and send it to info@dallasmeditationcenter.com. We'll get it to Anna and she will edit it, make it beautiful, and we'll put it on the web. Because it's our 10th anniversary, and we're going to be celebrating it more than just this month, but we really want to kind of focus on May. It was in May that the Meditation Center was founded. It was in May that we actually moved into the space that we live in now. So May is an important month for the Dallas Meditation Center, and we want to commemorate that. So please make a little video, get somebody in your family to help you if you need help, and send it to us. We'd love to see them. So I'm going to pass you back to Nick for closing chant.
Okay. So one other announcement that I have is that the Dallas Meditation Center runs on donations, and you can donate by phone texting mindful to 44321. Any donations we can have would be very much appreciated. So, all right, time for the closing chant. Okay. Countless beings we vow to free, ceaseless afflictions we vow to end, limitless truth doors we vow to open, the deepest paths of awakening we vow to realize. Okay. So thank you all for joining us today. We will continue this meeting through Zoom. Just look on the comments and click on the Zoom link and you can find your way there. So look forward to seeing you all on the next platform.